14 September 2017. Today we're talking Christian Pulisic overrated. The Mexican football fan is stupid. And Tottenham break the Wembley curse. It's been a while since I did a podcast, so I wanted to go back in time a little bit and talk about stuff that happened a while ago. But first, this is fresh on my mind. Christian Pulisic is overrated. Fact. Not an opinion. You can't argue this one. He is overrated. Now, what does that even mean? What does overrated mean? Overrated means people say he's better than he is. Okay, overrated doesn't mean he sucks. Overrated doesn't mean he's not good. Overrated just means people rate him higher than what he is. What is he? What is Christian Pulisic? He's a 19-year-old kid who's very good for a 19-year-old kid. He's not world class. Okay? He's not world class. He's not the best player on his team. He's not the best player in Germany. I wouldn't even say he's like in the top 2 best players, top 3, top 4 best players on his team. Okay? The best player on their team, well, the best kid on their team just got sold to Barcelona. And notice who didn't get sold to Barcelona. There were 2 teenagers on that team. One of them, Barcelona. Other one, not Barcelona. Okay? Okay. Now, it's not his fault. Okay, he's just a kid, like I said. He's 19 years old. It's not his fault. It's the U.S. media's fault. It's the U.S. soccer, specifically, media fault. For example, Alexi Lalas, calm yourself. Whenever he talks about him, he's like, oh, hey, he's not just a good player. He's not just a good American player. He's a good player that happens to be American. He's a great player that just happens to be American. Somebody, please rub Alexi Lalas' nose and calm him down. Rub it, give him a little nose rub. Calm him down, pet him on the head. He's 19, people. Okay, he's not a great player. He's not a good player. He's a good 19-year-old. His nationality means squat all. It doesn't mean a darn thing. What matters is his age, and what matters is his actual level of play. Now, we're going to go back in time a little bit. We're going to talk about Costa Rica at the U.S. World Cup qualifying, where he was playing, and he did nothing. He was invisible. He got completely shut down. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. He was invisible. He kept making bad plays. He kept making bad passes. And they lost. The U.S. lost embarrassingly to Costa Rica at home. The next game I saw him. I watched the full 90, by the way. Watched the full 90. Watched the U.S. against Honduras, where he was also invisible. He did nothing. He was completely anonymous throughout the entire game. He kept making bad passes. He kept getting dispossessed. He was frustrated, clearly. He's 19. Let me remind you about that. 19 years old. Third game I watched, full 90 minutes with him playing, was yesterday, Dortmund at Tottenham, where again, he did nothing. He was invisible. He didn't affect the game in any way. Serge Aurier completely contained him. There was one time where he got away, and he made a good cross to Aubameyang, but Jan Vertonghen cleared the ball. That was the one time of danger he had. One time that he beat Aurier. And besides that, between Toby, Alderweireld, and Aurier, he was completely nullified. He did nothing. Absolutely nothing. He didn't contribute defensively. He didn't contribute offensively. He was just there. And I'm very surprised he didn't get taken off because he didn't do anything. He wasn't a factor in the game. But he's 19. I didn't expect him to be the game winner. Like, I know the U.S. wanted him to, and that's the only reason. Let's talk about this for a second. The only reason this game was on Fox Sports 1 and not like on like the Facebook feed as Manchester City got relegated to was because of Pulisic. It wasn't because of Dortmund. It wasn't because it's one of the biggest teams in Germany playing one of the biggest teams in England. No, it was because of Pulisic. If Pulisic weren't playing, they wouldn't have shown it on FS1. That's just an aside. They probably would have shown Real Madrid, but that not the point. a lot of people on the internet were like, "Oh, he was so good. He was just so good on a losing effort, just so good. What the best player on the field, so good." No, he wasn't. He wasn't the best player on his own team, much less in the entire field. He didn't do anything, people. He did nothing the entire game. 3 games in a row that I've seen him, full 90 minutes, where he does squat. And that's my point. My point is he's 19 years old. He's a good 19-year-old player. He's not a good player. He's not a great player. Give him a chance to grow up. Do I want him on Tottenham? I would love him in Tottenham's youth academy because he wouldn't start for Tottenham. Let's put it like that. He doesn't start on Tottenham. He doesn't start on a lot of Premier League teams. It's very surprising that he starts for Dortmund, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't watch the German league that much, so I can't really comment. But he's not of the caliber that would, does he start at Chelsea? Does he take Hazard, Eden Hazard's spot? Absolutely not. He doesn't start at Tottenham. He doesn't take any of the starting spots at Tottenham. Does he start at Manchester United? No. He might start at Arsenal. I don't know. That's just a little dig at those idiots. But seriously, stop overhyping him. And it's not his fault. He's a good kid. I would love to have a kid like him right now coming through the Mexico youth team. I would love that. That's what I'm saying. I have a lot of respect for the kid, and I think he's going to be good, but he's not good yet. He's good for a 19-year-old. So that's what Alexi Lalas should be saying. Instead of saying, he's not just an American player that's good, he's a good player that happens to be American. He's a good 19-year-old soccer player. That's what he is. So, overrated. He's overhyped. People think he's better than he is. People will look at a game and just not see how bad he did or how shut down he was, and will still put accolades on him that he doesn't deserve. He didn't do anything in the game yesterday. And still, Twitter was like, "Oh, he was just so good. He was uncontainable throughout the first 45 minutes." Really? How many assists and goals did he have? How many passes into the box did he have? None! He didn't connect with anything. His only shot was blocked and went over the bar. And that was it. That's all he did. And the offside goal. Which, people are like, it should have counted. Yeah, no, it shouldn't have. You morons. Just because he's American doesn't mean the rules don't apply. Aubameyang was offsides. He made a play at the ball. He played the ball, and then Pulisic scored, but Aubameyang had already been called for offsides. That's how the rules are. The rules don't disappear when it's an American 19-year-old kid playing because you want him to score on the biggest stage. Sorry. And again, I've said this in the past, if he is the best player on the U.S. team, that is not a compliment for him. That is a sad state of affairs for the U.S. national team. I really hope he's not the best player on your team. I really do. Because you guys are going to not qualify for the World Cup if that's true. I don't think he is. I think other players will step up. And, of course, the U.S. will qualify. I think it's sad that there's even the conversation that he might be the best player on the U.S. national team. He isn't. He isn't, okay? Let's move on to the next, I like to call it controversial topic that I brought up. Let's talk about how stupid the average Mexican soccer fan is. Mexico qualified for the World Cup this last international break. At the time they qualified, if I remember correctly, they were just the 5th team to do so. Only 5 teams, and I think that's including Russia. So it was Iran, South Korea, Brazil, Mexico, Russia that were qualified. At the time, Mexico qualified. Belgium ended up qualifying the next day, I think, but Mexico was first. I think a couple other European teams qualified too. And I might be missing one team or something, but I think Mexico were the 5th team, including the hosts, to qualify for the World Cup. Let's talk about 4 years ago, exact same stage. Mexico were not qualified. They were not going to qualify. and by some miracle qualified. Didn't deserve it, played poorly, were managed poorly, and floundered at every step. You fast forward to now, the manager, Juan Carlos Osorio, has Mexico qualified in the fastest time Mexico has ever qualified for a World Cup, with the best record in World Cup qualifying that Mexico has ever had, with the best goal differential that Mexico has ever had. The draw in Costa Rica put us through, so we're in. We're the first team in CONCACAF to do so. And we did it in record time, with the best record that we've ever done it with. And there are still people out there wanting him gone. Does that even... It just baffles the brain. Look, the Mexican fan is very passionate. The Mexican fan loves football. It's part of the culture. It's part of the cultural identity of the Mexican person. Okay, especially here in the U.S., where it's all about identity politics and everyone's so concerned about how they identify. We love our soccer. You know, we're very passionate fans. But 99% of the average Mexican soccer fan is an idiot. They have no knowledge of the sport. They love the sport. They love to watch it. They have 5 green jerseys at home that they wear to formal occasions. But you don't know the sport. Because if you knew the sport, you would know he is the best manager we've had probably since Javier Aguirre back in like 2005. So for the better part of a decade, he is the best manager we've had. It's not just the Mexican fan that's stupid, because they are, and I'm calling everyone out. I'm calling an entire people out, including the ones in Mexico and the ones living in the U.S. You're stupid. He's the best manager we've had. Why would you want him out? Because he's not playing your favorite player? Because he rotates? If the players are into it, and it's working, it's clearly working, record-setting World Cup qualifying, best record in World Cup qualifying, with the least goals allowed and the most goals scored in World Cup qualifying, and you want him out? Like, how ignorant and stupid can you be? But like I said, it's not just the fans' fault. It's the media's fault. Because the media wants him out too. And I don't understand why. It's probably because, like the average Mexican football fan, they're stupid. They're ignorant about the sport. They don't know what they're talking about. And you know what the problem is? And here's the problem. They didn't like him before. They didn't like him at all. They didn't like his rotation policies. At the time, I think he had gone 13 games undefeated. And they still didn't like him. They're like, oh, the results are there, but we don't like his rotation policies, even though it seems to be working. And then came the 7-0. The one thing that he'll never live down. He could go on, I kid you not, he could go on to like make it to the semifinals of the World Cup next year, and they will not let it go. They will keep saying, oh, that 7-0, I mean, it's just, he obviously doesn't know what he's doing. He could make it to the semis with this team, with his policies, his rotation policies, his selection, picking the team that he wants, not picking the team that the media want, not picking the team that the stupid fans want, the team that he knows will do the job, make it to the semifinals of the World Cup, and they will still want him out because they're stupid. Just ignorant, stupid people that don't know the sport, don't understand the sport. You can tell by watching. I know a lot of people don't speak Spanish, so you don't watch ESPN Deportes and listen to those mongoloids. I don't know how you get that job. Oh, I mean, it's ESPN, so I mean they'll grab a guy from the street, put a tie on him, give him a headset, and then just talk. Just say the most asinine crap that you can. Interrupt each other, by the way. You'll have, I don't know if you ever watch these things, you'll have like, there are 7 people on the panel, and 4 of them are always talking at the same time. There is never a point where it's just one guy that they let him talk. And he even says like, oh, please let me finish. And then at the same time, there's a guy going like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. And there's another guy going, well, if we could just, figure out why 7-0 is such a bad scoreline. And then the other two guys are arguing, and one guy's having a conversation by himself. And then the host is like, we'll be right back. That's basically ESPN Deportes and pretty much any ESPN broadcast. But those guys on ESPN, really, you guys suck. You guys suck the worst. And there's always the only people that ever say they believe in him or they think the system is working is actual former players. If you watch, the former players that they have on the broadcast are the ones that are like, I think it's working. I mean, it's clearly working. The results are there. But here's the thing. If Mexico plays Honduras and doesn't win 7-0, it's a failure as far as the media is concerned. We should be beating these lesser teams by so much more. And the problem is, they're Mexican fans. They're not like Chileans or Argentinians or even Cubans and Puerto Ricans that just happen to be speaking soccer. No, if that were the case, it'd be like if you had like an Australian commentating crew speaking about the U.S. team. They would probably be more neutral and able to speak more logically about what happened instead of speaking with their emotions. They would be more logical. They would say what happened. They wouldn't speak out of their butt. But the problem is, and this happens with the U.S. commentating too, when it's a U.S. game on U.S. television, on Fox, and you have like the most American of commentating crews. It's just horrible to watch. It's horrible to watch. Like, what's his name? JB Dellacamera? Anytime he's on, oh man, it's hard. It's hard. And I get it because it happens in England games too. Whenever the English games are on television and they have, what's his name? McNamara. What's his first name? I don't remember. That dude that used to play for Liverpool. And he's commentating on the England game. It's just as hard to listen to because he's too involved. He's got too much writing on it because he's English. He's emotional. And he can't commentate with a clear head on the game if you have so much emotionally writing on the game. You can't do it. It's a mistake. He's not a professional. He's not a professional pundit. Okay, he is. He gets paid, but he's not good at it. Okay, there are people who can do it. There are people who can commentate on a game on television and be impartial. But a lot of people can't do it. And the post game on the ESPN, the media, the Mexican media can't do it. They don't have the brain capacity to look at a game and be just like, this is what happened. This is the result. It worked out. Look at Osorio's record. It's phenomenal. But it will never forgive or forget the 7-0. You know who forgave and forgot their 7-1 drubbing? Brazil. Brazil doesn't talk about it. You go talk to a Brazilian fan. Are they still whinging about that? Well, if only we hadn't lost to Germany. No, they were the first team to qualify. They don't care anymore. They moved on. I hate Brazil. I hate Brazilian players. I hate them and their fans. But they got over it. And I think we should be doing that. We should be getting over the 7-0. But we can't do that because we're stupid as a collective. Stop talking about it. First of all, every time Mexico plays, somebody brings it up. Every single time. Without fail. Every single game. He will never let it down. He'll never live it down. How is he going to react today? It's been over a year. He qualified for the World Cup in record time. He doesn't care anymore. You're the only ones that care. Let it go, and we can move on. And you know what happens when you move on? You get better. Look at Brazil. Again, look at Brazil. If they had lingered on that for as long as we've lingered on this, where would they be right now? I don't know. Would they be looking like one of the best teams in the world right now. Maybe the best team in the world right now, the way they're going. I doubt it. They got rid of the problem. They've corrected the problem, whatever it was, whether it was the personnel. I mean, this was a long time ago, mind you. It's almost been 4 years since that game for Brazil. It's only been over a year for us, but still, they didn't linger on it. They weren't talking about it the next year still. I mean, I don't read Brazilian newspapers, but nobody was talking about it on television when they played. They let it go. No, nobody can let it go. And it is. I mean, obviously the U.S. media, whenever Mexico plays, they like to bring it up because they like to poke the wound, kind of like, you guys lost 7-0. So that's understandable. You know, douchebag American soccer commentators are douchebags. Rob Stone, JP De La Camera, etc. But that's fine. You expect that from a hated rival. I expect nothing less from the professionals at Fox Sports to say something so asinine than to keep bringing this up. But for us, it's our team and we do it too. That's when it's pathetic. That's when it's too far. Why are we doing it to ourselves? Let Rob Stone be a moron, because he is one. Let him be a moron. Let Fox Sports be Fox Sports. Let them do them. Let them criticize and bring it up every time when they do a broadcast. Let them do it, whatever. Don't do it to yourselves. Why are we doing it to ourselves? Why is the fan base so negative? Why is the media so stupid? We're dumb. I think part of the problem, and I've been saying this, we don't know the sport. As a general rule, we're ignorant about the sport because we don't care as a whole to learn the sport. We just want to watch it. We want to wear the jersey. Oh, we're going to go to the game because it's an event and it's what we do. It's kind of like, again, this whole identity thing. We feel like we have to. Like, not everyone is an actual Mexican supporter. You just have a jersey because you're Mexican. It's what you do. Look at my new Mexican jersey. And my favorite player is Chicharito, but I can't name you the entire squad. I can't, like, more than 5 players, I don't know them. I don't know the team. But I wear the jersey because, it's Mexico, Mexican pride. F Trump. That's also part of the soccer fan thing. Like, it's a thing. It's an identity. It's a cultural thing. It's not a sports thing. And you don't know the sport because you don't care about the sport. You only care about the team because you're supposed to, because it's what Mexicans are supposed to do. Right? You don't see that kind of stupidity. I mean, it's the actual Mexican fan in Mexico is a very cynical person. We're a very cynical folk when it comes to sport in Mexico. And here, the Mexican American fan is just an idiot. So it's not a good combination. We need to learn the sport. Like, I'll give U.S. fans this. The average U.S. fan is more knowledgeable about the sport than the average Mexican fan. The average Mexican fan is just like, I'm gonna wear my wrestling mask and a cape and a sombrero and a fake mustache to the game and yell and drink beer because it's what I'm supposed to do. But I don't actually know what's going on. And if Chicharito isn't starting, I'm going to be upset. Because, forget tactics. I just want him on the pitch every time. Every game. It doesn't matter. The thing with Osorio is he looks at the opponent and he picks the best squad to deal with the opponent's threats and take advantage of the opponent's weaknesses. That's called coaching. It's called tactics. It's what managers are supposed to do. It's what a coach is supposed to do. That's why he's good. Because he does these things. Some teams are good enough that it doesn't matter who you're playing. Real Madrid, for example. Best club team in the world. Hope the Bernabeu burns in a fire. But you can't deny that they're the best team in the world. It doesn't matter who they play. They'll play the same starting 11 every time. Because they're that good. It doesn't matter. They don't have to play to the weaknesses of the opponents. Or to the strengths of the opponents. They don't have to, switch things around to make sure that the opponent's strengths are being mitigated because they're that good. There might be 2 teams in the world, maybe 3, that when they play Real Madrid has to take note and maybe say, okay, we got to tweak one thing here, one thing there. Maybe. But every other team ever, it doesn't matter. If Real Madrid plays any English team, which they will, which is kind of a delayed segue into my next topic. When they play an English team, they're not going to change anything. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They're going to field their starting 11 against Tottenham, and we're the ones that are going to alternate our tactics to suit them, or not to suit them, but to meet the challenge of Real Madrid. They're not going to switch their tactics to deal with us. They're going to play who they play because that's who they are. Great. The best teams in the world don't have to change their tactics for anyone. Mexico isn't that. Mexico has to switch tactics according to the opponent. It depends who you're playing. If you're playing a team that's really tall, where every player is taller than our players, you have to play a keeper that's good in the air. Ochoa is not that guy. So they put in Talavera. He is that guy. He's better in the air. He's more commanding of the box. If you're playing a team that likes to shoot from far, from distance, or plays a lot of 1-2s in the box, you put Ochoa in because he's the best shot blocker that we have. Bar none. He is the best. He got so much hate. The internet kept saying, Ochoa sucks. Why is he starting? Osorio out. Ochoa out. And what did he end up doing? He ended up being the hero. He made so many important stops in both games. Why? Because he was the right pick for those particular games. It's called tactics. It's called being a good manager. That's what it's called. That's what Osorio is. He understands that this is a very, very good Mexican soccer team. But it's not like a world-class team. So that means there has to be changes. There have to be changes every game depending on the opponent. You can't play the same tactics against the U.S. that you play against Germany. I mean, there's similar play styles. That wasn't a good example. You can't play the same strategy, let's say the U.S. against an African team like Ghana, where, the U.S. is a little more tactical, more skillful, and Ghana is just physical speed. You have to have a difference. You can't play Sweden the same way you play Honduras. Not if you're Brazil, maybe. If you're Germany, who cares who you play? You'll play the same team and you'll beat them. That doesn't matter. But if you're Mexico, you can't do that. Especially when your players are average of like 5'11", 5'10", and the Swedish players are average of 6'11". You have to change the tactics to suit the opponent sometimes. And that's what he does. And people don't like that. And people don't like that because they're like, why isn't my favorite player starting? I think these are players that should be starting, because you're stupid and you don't understand the sport. And I'm moving on. Moving on to yesterday's Champions League. Let's talk about. I watched the Juventus Barcelona game, which was a really good game. And I was talking to my friend. I was texting my friend during the game, and he's like, "I just don't see Juventus losing this." And I said to him, "Juventus is very good defensively. There's no question about that. But if there's one player in the world who can make something out of nothing," because Barcelona had all the possession and they really weren't doing anything. I was like, watch, Messi's going to do it. Messi's the one player in the world that can make nothing turn into a goal. And within probably 10 minutes, he scored his first goal. And then he ended up scoring that second goal. And he's just so freaking good. And I don't care, like, the goal scoring record. A lot of Ronaldo fans like to talk about how Ronaldo is better because he has more goals. Well, guess what? Maybe Ronaldo is very one-dimensional, and that's what he does. He's a goal scorer. Messi's a little more than that. Messi's an all-around player. He can play left, right wing. He can play center forward. He can play striker. He can play attacking midfielder. That's what he does. He's not just a pure goal scorer. Luis Suarez is a better pure goal scorer than he is, but he has that extra. Ronaldo, I almost called him Ronaldo. That's not his name. His name is Ronaldo. Ronaldo is pure power and speed. That's what he is. He'll overpower you. He'll outrun you. He's all muscle. That's all he is. He has no finesse. There's no finesse in his game. There's no ability in his game. It's all pure power. And I'm not saying he's not great. I think he'll go down as the best goal scorer ever. Like, that's what he does, though. Messi, on the other hand, is like a different... Like, if you were going to do a diagram of the skill sets that each of them have, yeah, Ronaldo has more skill set in one area, but Messi's circle would be bigger because it encompasses more skills. But I'm not here to talk about that. In my head, there's no question about who the greatest player of all time is, and we'll never see a player like him again. I don't think there's no player alive right now that's even close to what he can do or what he has done over the last decade. In my head, there's no question. Messi is the greatest player of all time, living or dead. The end. But I'm not going to talk about that. I want to talk about more... let's talk about... I do want to touch on one thing. I like how the Manchester teams, both of them, beat up on nobodies. And, of course, the British media was all about that. Especially United. You beat Basel. Almost called them Basil, like the herb. You beat Basel. At home. Who cares? Oh, they're back. Mourinho is such a piece of crap human being. He goes from saying like, back to normalcy. United Champions League, back to normalcy. That's not normal anymore, bro. You didn't earn it. First of all, you finished 6th in the league. You didn't earn it. You won the secondary competition, which, by the way, I would love to do just an entire rant on how the Europa League is such a joke. I think it's a better competition. I think the games end up being more hotly contested than in the Champions League. I mean, you don't see like score lines like what Manchester City did to or PSG. Who was it? PSG did to Celtic, or was it Manchester City yesterday? Somebody won 6-0, I think. 5-0, was it? 6-0. You don't see that very often in Europa. Very often. Like, sometimes you'll see one team just get smashed, but this happens way too often. When you have teams of that caliber in the Champions League against crappy teams that barely make it, then made it because it's the only team in the entire country. You see more hotly contested, tightly fought games in Europa, and I think it's a more fun competition to watch, but it's a lesser competition. It is. And if you win it, here's another thing. Name me a competition. Name me any soccer competition in the world where when you win, you don't have to fight and like defend your crown. Name me one. Let's see. If you win the Premier League, okay, it's called promotion. Promotion aside, you get promoted from League 2 to League 1. You don't actually fight for your crown the second time. You earned the right to play in the Premier League, but that's a league. This is a cup. What cup? What tournament where you win it and you don't have to defend your crown the World Cup, you have to defend your crown. Germany won it, and guess what? They don't get automatically qualified to the World Cup. They still have to qualify for this one. And the World Cup has begun. Like, World Cup qualifying is part of the World Cup. Okay? You have to get back and defend your crown against the teams that are trying to take it from you in the World Cup. Same thing with the Champions League, obviously. But, I mean, if you finish 6th in your league, you don't deserve to be there. You won you won a secondary competition, and the prize was Champions League. I mean, obviously he did the right thing. He focused on the Europa because he wasn't good enough. United weren't good enough to win the league or even finish in the top 4. That much is clear. They weren't good enough. So they did what they had to do, and they made it. Like, I'm not arguing that they made it, that they didn't make it. I'm just saying they didn't deserve it. Also, they didn't deserve to be seated higher than the teams that actually qualified based on the season. But again, whatever. But the funny thing was, he said back to normalcy. It's been 5 years since you guys were there. What, 4 or 5 years? It's been since Alex Ferguson left. Manchester United has not been the same. So normalcy is now finishing outside the top four, which United has finished in the top five, in the top four once since Ferguson left. Fourth place. So normalcy is not being in the Champions League. Normalcy isn't fighting for titles. Normalcy is United struggling to finish in the Europa League spots. That's what normalcy is now. Okay, so Mourinho, maybe he needs a lesson in vocabulary. Number one. Number two, they beat up on a crappy team that nobody's impressed except the British media, because the English media loves some Manchester United. And number three, he was fine. He was bullish, puffing on his fake cigar all season long, beating up on small teams in the Premier League as well. Then you get to Stoke, and Stoke punch back. And then all of a sudden, you lose the most expensive player ever up to that point. And now you're complaining about injuries. Like, oh, these tournaments are going to be the end of us. Has there ever been a season ever where he does not complain about the schedule when things go wrong? When things are going right, he doesn't complain. Oh, my players can't make it to the toilet without twisting an ankle. Go to hell. You're such a whiner. Manchester United don't deserve to be in the Champions League. Mourinho is a crybaby. He's a whiner. That's all he's ever been. He's a sore loser and a sore winner. And you played a nobody team and you beat them. Don't get ahead of yourselves. United aren't going to win the Champions League. They're not going to win the Premier League either. Manchester City, on the other hand, same kind of thing. You beat up on a nobody team. You beat up on a team that I think that was their first ever Champions League appearance, and you beat them up, and everyone's like, oh, that's very impressive. Look how impressive that is. Yeah, if I beat a 5-year-old at soccer, is that impressive? No, it's not. It's not impressive. But let's move on to the only team that I care about. Tottenham. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about this so-called Wembley curse. And look, I think there's something to be said about it. I don't think it's a curse. I think it's more like it's been verified by science that there is such a thing as home field advantage. All right, it's been documented. Part of the thing I think that had been going so poorly for them is that it wasn't really home field advantage for them. If you look at the referees and the calls they make, the home team tends to get the calls. It's called, there's a reason it's called home cooking, right? It's a term used when a home team will get a call that they shouldn't have gotten because they're at home, and the away team doesn't get that same call. I don't know if it's psychological, like referees, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give it any advantage to the home team, but they do it anyway and they can't help themselves. Or if it's like, well, it is the home team, I'm going to give them a little bit of an advantage. I don't know. I've never actually reffed in a where I felt like that. I mean, I've reffed high school games where I went to a home stadium with, hundreds of people, but I never felt compelled. Maybe it's different at that level when you, instead of like 100 people, you have, 50,000. I don't know. I can't say. Like I said, I've never done it. And half the time, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know who was the home team and who wasn't. I mean, I knew the name of the team that was home. Like we'd go to, Westmobile High School, so I knew Westmobile was home, but I didn't know which of the two teams was Westmobile. I was just it's gray against orange. That's all I know, But I'm wondering if that's part of it, because you tend to see that. You tend to see referees give the home team the calls. And I don't think Tottenham have been getting the home field advantage, the home cooking when it comes to calls. I don't think they got them last year at Wembley because it's not their home. So maybe the referees feel like they didn't feel that compulsion, that either subconscious or conscious compulsion to give the home team the advantage, give the home team the calls, because they weren't the home team. Like, this isn't their home. They're squatting here. It's not their home. This year it is their home. But does it have that feel yet? Does it feel like a Tottenham stadium? Do the referees going to come in and it's like, oh, home cooking? Or are they just like, this is a neutral ground? Will not give Tottenham advantage. And I'm not saying it's an excuse. Like I don't want it to seem like I'm making an excuse for Tottenham sucking at Wembley. I think the problem is multifaceted. I don't think it's just the referees aren't giving us the calls because it's not our home. Therefore, it's the referees' fault. No, I think watching them at Wembley last season, they played bad. They played really bad. Bad football. Very bad. And yesterday was... A lot of people are talking like Pochettino got the tactics right. Like, who would have thunk that he was going to sit back and hit him on the counter? I don't think he planned that. I think it came out of necessity. I think he came out, and I've never seen Tottenham outpossessed the way they have been for a long time. I don't say never because I've seen it, but not like this. Not for a long time. Where a team will have like 63% possession, 65 at one point against us. That never happens. When does that happen? When was the last time you remember that? You don't remember it because it hasn't happened in a long time. I genuinely don't remember. I think the last time I kind of remember that happening was like back in the Harry Redknapp era against Manchester United at Old Trafford. I do remember just being pinned back and just like not being able to get out of our own half. No Tottenham player averaged field position in the Dortmund half in the first half of the game. That's how pinned back we were. So maybe, in my thinking, Pochettino was like, all right, we're getting completely dominated. We need to sit back more. He made a few adjustments. We absorbed the pressure, hit him on the counter. As opposed to, I think what people were thinking was like, he did that on purpose. He on purpose sat back and hit on the counter. I don't think you come to a Champions League game at home, which is now your home, and plan to sit back and hit on the counter. I just don't. Not against Dortmund. I mean, they like to press. We all know about that. I mean, Jurgen Klopp invented the, whatever it's called, Gegenpressing or whatever he called it. He does it. He tries to do it at Liverpool now. And the tactics that he established there are still kind of the thing that they do. And they've been very good at it, and they've been very successful since Klopp changed the team. But we press too. We're a pressing team. So only two pressing teams come together. Something's got to give, and I think they just out-pressed us. They out-hustled us in the first half. We had to sit back, not because it was like this is what we're gonna do beforehand, but because of like, oh, I don't think we're gonna be able to do this. Let's sit back and try to hit him on the counter. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was his plan the entire time. His plan was absorb the pressure the first half, hit him on the counter, and then the second half they're going to be tired, and we can dominate. Because that's exactly what happened. They worked us the first half, and I was sure we were going to get smashed. And then the second half, tables were turned completely. It looked like we were playing downhill. Maybe the stadium is a little tilted because it looked like we were running at them, and they couldn't get back. And we should have beaten by way more than 3. 2 goals, but we scored 3. We could have had 4 or 5 easily. And I feel like we squandered a few opportunities, but not the point. The point is the second half was completely different. I don't know if they were tired or if we just got our tactics better or if we kind of clicked. Something clicked and we just started playing better because we were not playing well the first half. Yeah, we were up. 2-1. But I didn't feel like the scoreline reflected the game. As it often happens in the sport. The sport is not fair, I would say. It's not about who deserves. I've said this many times. It's not about who deserves. It's about who scores the goals. If it were about deserving to win, there would be teams that deserve to win more, and there are big teams that win games that don't deserve anything. Like, how many times did we see back in the day Manchester United get worked and still end up with a win? Like, score 2 goals in the last 30 seconds of the game and end up winning. You didn't deserve it, but you did because you scored them. So in the end, you did deserve it. It's kind of like the U.S. against Honduras. They didn't deserve to tie. They deserved to lose because they were poor. They were by far the worst team of the two. And if Honduras were a good team, or even a mediocre team, they would have put 4 goals past the U.S. easily. But they didn't. The U.S. didn't deserve a draw, but they got one. Why? Because they scored the goal. So it's not about deserving it. It's about doing the thing that puts the ball in the goal. That's all that matters. Deserve or no deserve. That's in the end, that's all that counts. Yeah, Dortmund deserved to be up because they played better the first half, but we played better the second half. So there you go. And I think if Wembley starts feeling like Tottenham's home for both the supporters, the players, and the referees, maybe we'll start seeing a turn. I don't think this magically breaks the curse. Curses aren't real. Okay? They are in sports. Curses might be real in sports. They don't exist in real life. They might be real in sports though. This didn't break any curse. I just think it's a matter of time before Wembley feels like home. Eventually, now that you have no choice but to play. Because we're playing one game a month. Not even. One game every couple of months at Wembley. Of course it doesn't feel like home. Now we're playing every other game. Mostly. Give or take maybe 2-3 games in a row at home. We're playing every other game at home, quote unquote, at Wembley. Wembley will become our home. It will feel like home for the season. Now the worry is you'll get adjusted to Wembley and then bam, next season you're at New White Hart Lane and then the process has to start over. You have to reacclimate to a new stadium. But hopefully, I don't like being a nomad. I don't like that we don't have a home stadium. But in the end, it's going to be worth it. In the end, this new stadium, I think, is going to put Tottenham on the map, and I think this stadium is going to change everything. I don't want to get sidetracked. I could do a whole hour-long thing about why I think this stadium is going to change. This stadium will change the dynamics of the Premier League, and Tottenham will be one of the best teams, if not the best team, in the next 4 years. After the stadium is built, if Pochettino stays, Tottenham will be the best team in the country. I'm saying it right now. There are a lot of factors that have to play into that, but if the pieces fall just so, we will be the best team in the country. Fact. I'm calling it today. 2017. By 2020, we'll start seeing that if the things stay the way they are. But anyway, I've rambled on enough. And on that note, I'm gonna finish this one off. There's a Premier League this weekend. We play again at Wembley against Swansea. So hopefully that'll be another win, and we can get our campaign back on track after a disappointing and undeserved loss against Chelsea. And I didn't watch, a very disappointing. What was I doing? Why didn't I watch it? I don't remember what I was doing. I was doing something, but that draw at home, 1-1. But whatever the case, we won yesterday. If we win at Swansea, and then the following week we play a championship team at home. So that's 3 games in a row that we could just change everything, change the narrative. That's what we want to do, change the narrative. I don't know when I'm going to do another one of these, but until then, take it easy.